Imagine a vast empire of legions, aqueducts, and might pressing eastward into the land of the Arsacid kings, where cavalry rules the open plains and arrows rain like hail. Could the Romans have conquered Parthia, that land of horses, deserts, and cunning politics? Today, we journey into that question. Not just a clash of arms, but a clash of systems, strategy, and ambition. The Parthian Empire rose from the embers of the Seleucid world, beginning as a nomadic clan that seized the satrapy of Parthia in the 3rd century BCE. Their new realm expanded quickly, absorbing key trade routes and controlling the corridor between East and West. This created an empire that combined Persian traditions with steppe warfare. By the time Rome appeared in the Near East, Parthia had matured into a powerful, decentralized state. It was no easy conquest waiting to happen. Parthia's rulers styled themselves as King of Kings, inheriting Persian imperial symbolism while relying on feudal nobles. This mixture allowed great military flexibility and local autonomy, but also made the empire unpredictable to outsiders. Where Rome saw a central power to negotiate with, Parthia was a shifting web of aristocratic houses. Understanding this structure is crucial to seeing why the Romans struggled. Meanwhile, Rome had been fighting in Spain, North Africa, and Greece, forging the strongest army of its age. Its legions were disciplined, its logistics renowned, and its ambition endless. Yet the world east of the Euphrates was unfamiliar terrain. Supply lines stretched for weeks, and climate, culture, and cavalry awaited the invader. Rome's own rise would soon collide with Parthia's rise, and the result would shape centuries of history. The late Republic was marked by hunger for glory and wealth. Crassus, Caesar, and Pompey all eyed Eastern campaigns as a way to cement personal fame. When Pompey annexed Syria and subdued Judea, the Euphrates became the informal line between Roman and Parthian spheres. This boundary was less a wall than a challenge, beckoning ambitious generals to test their mettle. Crassus, seeking to rival Caesar's conquests, launched his ill-fated invasion of 53 BCE. The legions he led had never faced mobile archers on such open plains. Serena, the Parthian general, played them masterfully, drawing them into traps and using endless volleys of arrows to bleed them dry. It was Rome's first taste of Eastern disaster. This clash shocked the Mediterranean world. If even Roman legions could be annihilated in Mesopotamia, what did that mean for future campaigns? Yet failure only sharpened the rivalry. The Euphrates frontier became a testing ground where generals dreamed of glory and empires measured one another. At Carrhae, Parthian tactics rewrote Roman expectations. Heavy cataphracts and swarms of horse archers encircled Roman squares, showering them with arrows while staying out of reach. Without adequate cavalry or supplies, the legions crumbled under constant harassment. Crassus himself was killed, his head later paraded in a Parthian play in mockery of Roman power. The loss humiliated Rome but elevated Parthia into a true peer rival. In the Senate, voices debated vengeance and strategy. In the provinces, governors fretted over eastern defenses. For Parthia, the victory was proof its system could withstand the West's strongest army, yet it also alerted them to Rome's relentless nature. In the years following Carrhae, both powers maneuvered politically. Parthia supported Roman rebels at times. Rome tried to meddle in Armenian succession. This game of chess defined the 1st century BCE, creating a frontier of intrigue rather than continuous war. Still, the question lingered: who would strike next? Mark Antony, inheriting the Eastern command, planned to avenge Crassus. He assembled one of the largest Roman armies ever sent east and marched into Armenia and beyond. But Parthian guerrilla tactics, bad weather, and supply shortages plagued his progress. Siege equipment was lost, morale faltered. Retreat became inevitable. Antony's withdrawal underscored Rome's weaknesses in Parthia. No matter how many legions it sent, mobility, logistics, and harsh terrain tilted the odds. Even when Rome found allies among local kings, coordination proved difficult. The dream of a swift conquest remained out of reach. This setback deepened Rome's reliance on buffer states like Armenia and client kings along the frontier. The empire would spend decades shaping a defensive-offensive balance rather than risking full invasion again. Yet the ambition to plant the Roman eagle in Ctesiphon never disappeared. Armenia stood at the crossroads of empires, mountainous and fiercely independent. Whoever controlled its throne could threaten or secure the eastern frontier. Throughout the 1st century CE, Rome and Parthia vied to install friendly monarchs there, turning the kingdom into a geopolitical chessboard. When Parthia placed Tiridates on Armenia's throne, Rome responded with the seasoned general Corbulo. His disciplined legions swept through the region, capturing cities and forcing Parthians to retreat. For a time, it seemed Rome had gained the upper hand. Yet victory did not last. Parthia counterattacked. Roman forces were trapped at Rhandaea. A compromise ensued. Tiridates would be recognized but had to receive his crown from the Roman emperor, a symbolic Roman win, but a practical stalemate. The pattern of advance and retreat repeated. In 114 CE, Emperor Trajan launched the boldest eastern campaign yet. His legions crossed the Euphrates, stormed through Mesopotamia, and captured Ctesiphon. Roman standards flew at the Persian Gulf, fulfilling the wildest dreams of conquest. For a moment it looked as though Parthia might be finished, but the cost was immense. Rebellions broke out, supply lines frayed, and the aging emperor fell ill. His successor, Hadrian, chose consolidation over expansion, withdrawing from the deep territories and settling for defensible frontiers. The dream dissolved like mirage water in the desert. Trajan's conquests left a lesson. Rome could invade Parthia and even seize its capital, but it could not hold the heartland without sacrificing stability elsewhere. Geography and politics imposed limits even on Rome's power. In the mid-2nd century CE, Parthia again pressed into Armenia, prompting Rome's co-emperor Lucius Verus to respond. Roman forces advanced, captured key cities, and once more sacked Ctesiphon. Parthian resistance crumbled temporarily, and Rome seemed poised to dominate the east. Yet an unseen enemy struck: plague. As the legions returned west, disease spread across the empire, weakening its armies and economy. The territories taken in Mesopotamia proved impossible to keep. The cycle of advance and withdrawal continued. This episode highlighted another constraint: disease and attrition in hostile climates. Even victorious campaigns carried hidden costs that undermined long-term occupation. Parthia, wounded but unbroken, endured. Rome's strength lay in heavy infantry, engineering, and discipline. Legions built forts, roads, and siege engines with unmatched skill. They could break Hellenistic phalanxes, crush tribal warriors, and storm cities. But in the open plains of Parthia, their slow formations became targets. Parthia, by contrast, thrived on mobility. Its horse archers mastered the Parthian shot, striking while retreating. Cataphracts delivered devastating charges. Their nobles could raise forces quickly and disperse after victory, denying Rome a decisive battle of annihilation. This mismatch meant that even when Rome won cities, it could not destroy the Parthian military class entirely. The war became one of raids, counter-raids, and puppet kings rather than clean conquest. Both systems had strengths the other could not easily negate. Beyond tactics lay the geography itself. Mesopotamia's heat and aridity drained Roman soldiers used to Mediterranean climates. Long supply lines over deserts made it hard to feed legions and animals. Water scarcity, ambushes, and scorched earth tactics compounded the burden. Parthia exploited this environment, avoiding pitched battles until conditions favored them. They could retreat deeper into Iran, drawing Rome farther from its bases. Even if the Romans seized a capital, the Parthian king could regroup elsewhere. Total submission was elusive. This reality meant Rome's eastern policy became one of limited objectives: securing buffer zones, punishing raids, and upholding prestige rather than outright annexation. Parthia remained unconquered not by chance, but by design of land and logistics. Inside Parthia, the king's power depended on powerful noble families. This decentralization frustrated Roman plans to negotiate or impose control. Conquer one area and another aristocrat might rise. Ally with one faction and another would rebel. Rome sometimes tried to exploit these divisions, supporting rival claimants to the throne. Occasionally it succeeded in installing a friendly king, but rarely for long. The social fabric of Parthia resisted simple top-down conquest. This political landscape acted like a living defense system. Even after defeats, the empire could reconstitute itself, making permanent occupation by a foreign power extremely difficult. Rome faced not one enemy but many interlocking ones. Beyond politics, culture posed a barrier. Parthia represented a Persian-Iranian world with its own traditions, languages, and elites. Roman administration, geared for Mediterranean provinces, would struggle to govern such territory effectively. Unlike Hellenistic kingdoms that blended easily with Roman ways, Parthia's identity was distinct. Taxation, law, and religion all differed. Integrating such a realm would require deep administrative innovation, a burden Rome hesitated to assume. Thus, even when military conquest seemed within reach, the prospect of ruling Parthia long-term may have deterred full annexation. Influence through client states and diplomacy seemed preferable. Nevertheless, the idea of conquering Parthia persisted in Roman imagination. Poets, senators, and emperors invoked Eastern victories as marks of supreme glory. Coins bore images of Parthian submission. Triumphs celebrated temporary gains. This dream fueled repeated invasions. Each time, Rome hoped to succeed where predecessors had failed. Each time, the same obstacles, mobility, distance, disease, culture, reasserted themselves. Parthia thus became less a prize to be won than a mirror reflecting Rome's limits. It was the frontier where imperial ambition met reality. Could a different Rome have succeeded? Historians speculate. More cavalry, better supply networks, or permanent bases deep in Mesopotamia might have tipped the balance. Some imagine a unified Rome under a single brilliant general striking when Parthia was weakest. Perhaps alliances with internal factions could have fractured the empire enough for annexation, or a technological leap, mounted archers of its own, could have neutralized Parthia's edge. Yet each scenario requires conditions Rome rarely had. Even then, holding the Iranian plateau with its fierce nobility and challenging terrain would be another story. Conquest might have led to endless insurgency rather than stable province. The struggle between Rome and Parthia shaped the geopolitics of the ancient world. Trade routes, diplomatic protocols, and military innovations flowed from their rivalry. The buffer states between them, Armenia, Osrhoene, Judea, became contested ground that influenced later empires. When the Parthians were replaced by the Sassanid dynasty in the 3rd century CE, Rome faced an even more centralized Persian power. The contest continued for centuries, proving that the eastern frontier was a permanent challenge, not a temporary obstacle. In this sense, the inability to conquer Parthia was not a failure, but a turning point. It defined the limits of Roman expansion and foreshadowed future east-west struggles. Looking back, the evidence suggests Rome could seize parts of Parthia, even its capital, but could not hold the heartland for long. Geography, logistics, mobility, politics, and culture combined to make permanent conquest nearly impossible. The empire that ruled Britain, Gaul, and Egypt met its match beyond the Euphrates. Yet this stalemate produced a rich cross-cultural zone. Merchants, diplomats, and soldiers carried ideas and goods between the Mediterranean and the Iranian world. Out of rivalry came exchange and transformation. So when we ask, could Rome have conquered Parthia? We are really asking about the limits of power itself. Even the mightiest empire must respect terrain, societies, and systems different from its own. Our story ends where it began, on the wind-swept plains of Mesopotamia, where two worlds met and measured one another. The clash of legion and horse archer, of senate and king of kings, was more than a military duel. It was a contest of endurance, strategy, and identity. Rome could invade but not digest Parthia. Parthia could resist but not destroy Rome. Together they defined an era. If you enjoyed this deep exploration of ancient rivalries, remember to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Could any empire truly have conquered the other? History offers its lessons, and in our next episode we'll uncover another moment where ambition met its limits.